Have you ever told someone you're an introvert, only for them to immediately imagine you hiding in the corner of a room, avoiding every human being like you're allergic to conversation? But here's the thing. Not all introverts are the same. Some introverts actually enjoy hanging out with people, as long as they know when they can go home. Some spend most of their time inside their own heads, creating entire imaginary scenarios that will probably never happen. Others desperately want to socialize, but their brain starts running a 47-slide presentation about everything that could possibly go wrong. And then there are introverts who aren't necessarily shy or anxious. They just need a little time to warm up before letting people into their world. So, if you've ever wondered why your version of introversion doesn't look exactly like someone else's, there's actually a reason. Psychologists Jennifer Grimes, Jonathan Cheek, and Julie Norum described 4 different dimensions of introversion: social, thinking, anxious, and restrained introversion. And no, this isn't a personality sorting hat where you get assigned one type forever. You can relate to more than one, and your tendencies can change depending on the situation. So grab your imaginary do not disturb sign because we're going through all 4. First, we have the social introvert. And yes, social introvert sounds like an oxymoron. But these introverts can actually enjoy socializing. They aren't necessarily afraid of people. They just prefer smaller doses of people. A social introvert might happily spend an afternoon with 2 close friends, have a great time, laugh until their stomach hurts, and then suddenly realize, okay, that was wonderful. I would now like to return to my natural habitat. Home. Alone. Possibly under a blanket. Social introverts often prefer small groups, one-on-one conversations, and familiar people rather than huge crowds or endless social events. They can be friendly, talkative, and even surprisingly outgoing around people they trust. But after enough social interaction, their social battery starts doing this. 100%. 72%, 41%, 12%, and finally, sorry, I have to go. I have absolutely nothing scheduled, but I must. For this type, being alone isn't necessarily about avoiding people. It's about recharging after being around them. So if you enjoy your friends but also consider canceling plans a legitimate form of self-care, you might be a social introvert. Next is the thinking introvert. These are the people whose bodies are technically in the room, but their minds? Somewhere else entirely. A thinking introvert tends to spend a lot of time reflecting, imagining, analyzing, and exploring ideas. You could be talking to them and suddenly notice their eyes staring into the distance. You think, are they listening? Meanwhile, inside their head, they're imagining a completely different conversation. Then another one. Then an alternate ending to the conversation they had 3 days ago. And somehow they're now wondering what life would be like if they moved to another country and opened a tiny bookstore. Thinking introverts often have rich inner worlds. They may enjoy reading, writing, creating, daydreaming, solving problems, or simply thinking about things deeply. They're also often the "let me think about that first" type. Ask them a question. They pause. You wait. They continue thinking. You start wondering if the Wi-Fi disconnected. Then, 5 minutes later, they give you an incredibly detailed answer. But there's a downside. Sometimes thinking can turn into overthinking. A simple decision like, should I send this message? Can somehow become, what if they interpret the punctuation differently? What if I sound weird? What if I should rewrite it? What if I just don't send anything? And suddenly the message is still sitting in drafts tomorrow morning. So if your brain has more tabs open than your browser, you might be a thinking introvert. Now we have the anxious introvert. And this one needs an important clarification. Being introverted and having social anxiety are not the same thing. Introversion is a personality trait. Social anxiety is a mental health condition involving significant fear or anxiety around social situations. The anxious introversion dimension is more about feeling uncomfortable, self-conscious, or worried in social situations. For this type, social situations may involve a lot of internal questioning. Did I say something weird? Was that joke actually funny? Why did I make that face? Did they notice? And then comes the classic move. Replaying the entire interaction later. The conversation lasted 5 minutes. Your brain's director's cut? 3 hours. With deleted scenes, extended commentary, and somehow a completely unnecessary sequel. An anxious introvert may feel more comfortable in familiar environments where they know what to expect. They might prefer quiet spaces and predictable situations because uncertainty can make social interactions feel more difficult. And remember, having some of these tendencies doesn't automatically mean someone has an anxiety disorder. This is about a dimension of introversion, not a diagnosis. So if you've ever walked away from a conversation thinking, "I survived," rather than, "That was fun," you might recognize yourself here. And finally, we have the restrained introvert. This type is basically the human version of, "Let me get comfortable first." Restrained introverts may take longer to warm up to people or situations. They tend to be thoughtful and deliberate rather than immediately jumping into things. Someone new enters the room. Everyone else excited to greet, while the restrained introvert just calmly wave hand and say, "Hello." And internally, let's observe the situation for approximately 3 to 5 business days. They may prefer to listen before speaking, watch what's happening before joining in, and think carefully before making decisions. And when they're quiet, it doesn't necessarily mean they're uninterested. They could simply be processing everything. You might not hear much from them at first, but once they feel comfortable, suddenly, there's a whole personality hiding behind the loading screen. And that's one of the biggest misconceptions about introverts. Quiet doesn't always mean empty. Sometimes it means a lot is happening internally. So, which type are you? Let's recap. Social introverts enjoy people, but usually in smaller doses and with plenty of alone time to recharge. Thinking introverts spend a lot of time exploring ideas, imagining possibilities, and living inside their own thoughts. Anxious introverts may feel more self-conscious or uncomfortable in social situations and can spend a lot of time worrying about how they're perceived. And restrained introverts tend to take their time, observe, and warm up before fully opening up. But here's the fun part. You don't have to pick just one. You might be a thinking introvert who also needs 3 days to recover from a party. You might be social with your closest friends but restrained around new people. Or you might recognize yourself in bits and pieces of all four. Because people aren't neatly divided into 4 little boxes. We're complicated. We're inconsistent. We're influenced by our environment, experiences, relationships, and the people we're around. And honestly, that's probably a good thing. So, which one sounds most like you? Are you the social introvert? The thinking introvert? The anxious introvert? The restrained introvert? Or are you basically the somehow all 4 introvert? Let us know in the comments. And remember, you're not necessarily antisocial. Your social battery just has office hours.